So as you know, there's a theory currently going on in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 runners that there is a second traitor among the seven besides Geno back in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2's Shattered Live event. And that second traitor among the seven is Amie. And to be honest, this theory is actually quite interesting because it would make sense of what's currently going on with Amie in Chapter 7 Season 3 runners. Because as you know, back in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 2's Shattered Live event, you'll notice that Amie is absent throughout the entire live event. And currently in Chapter 7 Season 3 runners, in the Formation story quest, Geno suggested the idea to the Singularity and Sloan to use Amie to operate the stabilizer to stabilize the 0 point. However, the Singularity and Sloan disregarded the idea of using Amie to operate the stabilizer to stabilize the 0 point. Not only that Amie makes very bad coffee, but also because she will write insults in the foam itself. And this distrust towards Amie by Sloan and the Singularity makes us think is something going on with Amie if she is the second traitor among the seven and working with Geno and the Dark Voyager. Because it would make sense because back in Chapter 7 Season 2's Shadow Live event, we didn't know how the Exalted Ice King and the Dark Voyager got the information of the Foundation's plan by Geno, and now we possibly know. It's possible that Geno told Amie to send the Dark Voyager and the Exalted Ice King the Foundation's plan to them, so that way that the Dark Voyager and the Exalted Ice King will win the showdown between Team Foundation, get the last 0 point shard, have the Dark Voyager to betray the Exalted Ice King, and reassemble the 0 point. So all of it now may be wondering of how could Amie be a traitor among the seven, and most importantly, how could she be working with Geno and the Dark Voyager? Well, as you know, there is one person that Amie wants to save and who she deeply cares about. That being the scientist. Because as you know, Amie had an obsession with the scientist. This was first shown back in Chapter 3 Season 3 Vibing, and this went on back in Chapter 3 Season 4 Paradise and Chapter 4 Season 1 Oathbound. And as you know, back in Chapter 7 Season 2's secret story quest involving us interacting with holotables to get messages from the fallen members of the original seven, and after hearing the scientist's final message, Amie said in her words that she apologized that she couldn't save him in time, meaning that Amie unfortunately couldn't save the scientist from the last reality when he was lost in the chrome, meaning that Amie has to find a way to save the scientist. If that means teaming up with the Seven's arch enemy, Geno, the founder of the Imagined Order. However, I don't think injuring Jones was part of the deal, because as you know, Amie and Jones did have a rocky friendship during Chapter 3 Season 4 Paradise, but overall, throughout Chapter 3 Season 4's story, they grown to trust each other, and the two of them became friends, even towards Chapter 4 Season 1 Oathbound. And I don't think hurting Jones was the best idea for her to make when she teamed up with Geno and the Dark Voyager. So, yeah, I don't think she knows about that, but we honestly don't know yet. Anyways, so that could explain why Geno wants Sloan and the Singularity to use Amie to operate the stabilizer. That way, that quite similar to what happened with the Foundation, she would sabotage it. However, this also makes sense of what happened to the Singularity, because if you remember, during Chapter 7 Season 3 story involving us collecting mysterious audio logs throughout the entirety of the Shattered Coast, we find an audio log and hear a conversation between Geno, well, pretending to be the visitor, and the Singularity. And all of us were wondering, how could the Singularity's mech be sabotaged by Geno? And there's only one AI that can possibly do that. That being Amie. That's right, it's possible, quite similar with the Foundation's plan to defeat the Exalted Ice King and the Dark Voyager sabotaged. It's quite similar to that Geno must have told Amie to sabotage the Singularity's mech, delaying her arrival to the Golden Coast and allowing the Dark Voyager to turn the Golden Coast into the Shattered Coast. This could make sense of what happened during Chapter 7 Season 2's Shattered Live event. While Amie was occupied delaying the Singularity's arrival by sabotaging her mech, this allowed Geno's plan to go forward in action, not only to get rid of the Foundation and the Exalted Ice King, but to get rid of Jones. That way Jones will not tell anyone about Geno being the visitor, so it would make sense how this could unfold. But again, we don't know what's going to happen next, but this theory is quite interesting. And if it's possible that Amie is the second traitor, that will be insane and wild. And it also makes sense about Amie's character, because as you know, Amie has a habit of accidentally teaming up with villains. Because as you know, back in Chapter 4, Season 1, Oathbound, Amie accidentally helped a young version of Geno, known as the Ageless Champion, and gave him refined kinetic ore to open the Rift Gate. And she almost restarted the cycle of the imagined order all over again by almost helping the Aegis Champion, a younger version of Geno, to remake the imagined order from scratch all over again, which will cause to create a new Seven and new versions of the Sisters, which we know to be the imagined and the Order. So yeah, the cycle was almost restarted because of Amie. Not only that, but she almost brought Geno back to the story, which is again pretty insane, to be honest. So this would make sense of why Amie would team up with Geno as well, because again, she has a habit of teaming up with villains in the past, like what happened with the Aegis Champion, you know, the primary antagonist of Chapter 4, Season 1, Oathbound, because he's a young version of Geno, and she almost helped a younger version of Geno to explore the Omniverse and find the zero point, like last time, like the original Geno did when he explored the Omniverse. Because as you know, the Aegis Champion has the same ambition and characteristics of Geno, so it would make sense. And it almost happened with Geno's return for the first time, because as you know, Geno almost came back to the story in Chapter 4, Season 1, Oathbound, because he's the whole reason that Rift Warren Stellan was in the Oathbound, because he altered his dreams, and he was known as the Shapeless Man, so it would make sense of how this could happen. So yeah, this would make sense for Amie's character to team up with villains. But again, I don't think hurting Jones and injuring him was part of the plan to save the scientist. But, you know, Geno can care less, as long as his plan is still going forward. So yeah, my overall thoughts on Amie being the second traitor among the Seven is still very interesting. Although we don't really know if it's going to actually happen, but I guess we'll have to wait and see and find out. There are a lot of evidence that does show that Amie could be the second traitor among the Seven, besides Geno, back in Chapter 7 Season 2's Shadow Live event, and currently in the story of Chapter 7 Season 3 Runners. I find it very interesting. But again, we had to wait and see what's currently going on in the story, with more secret story quests going on. But overall, this is a pretty interesting theory that I just want to talk about. So yeah, thank you all so much for watching this Fortnite video of me talking about this theory about Amie being the second traitor among the Seven, which is again a very interesting theory, and it would make sense what's currently going on with Amie in Chapter 7 Season 3 runners. And thank you all so much for watching this video. Comment down below what your favorite things to do with Fortnite, creativity, buying players, Fortnite Blizzard, Fortnite Reload, the arrival of Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 9 OG, Fortnite Sea of the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest map, the Elite's Stronghold. Comment down below what's your favorite moments in Fortnite Chapter 7 Season 3 runners, Fortnite Chapter 1 Season 9 OG, Fortnite Sea of the World, and Fortnite Reload's newest map, the Elite Stronghold. Comment down below what Fortnite theories you want to discuss and debunk, and I'll gladly make videos about them. Subscribe to the channel, and don't forget to turn on notifications so you won't miss any videos from me. And Amie being the second trader amongst the seven and team up with Geno is crazy if it's actually going to be possible. But again, we'll see and find out. We have to be wait and be patient with more secret story quests coming very soon. With that said, I'll see you all in the next video. Bye!